right, and we're live. Thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Miguel Guerrero. I'm Director of Business Development here at Oxygen XL, where we proudly take care of account receivable management services and debt collections. We are lucky to be joined by Tina Larson, co-founder and owner of the Folsom Group. Tina, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Miguel, for having me. So we are consultants. We work with Co-op and Condo boards and apartment building owners to reduce their operating costs to make them greener and more sustainable.
Perfect. So, I mean, that's a conversation I think all of us need to have, especially now, especially in the tri-state area. So we could jump right into it. I know a lot of people have been asking different questions, especially about your perspective. So the first point we would want to bring up is really strategic planning and cash flow. So how does that fall into the Folsom Group and the amazing work you guys do, Tina?
Thank you. So strategic planning. Well, if we had a nickel or a dime for every time that we hear that our building, we have no capital improvement plan. They need a plan. They have all of these buildings. There was a big building boom in the 50s and the 60s. And a lot of building systems are old and need to be replaced or at least upgraded. And they don't have a plan for it. And so it's a very important topic that we speak with most of our boards with. And so that's kind of where we are. They need a plan.
Absolutely. Is there a specific aspect right now that you think condos and apartment buildings are really focusing on, especially because of the circumstance we're in right now?
Well, I mean, their elevators are old, their windows are old, their roofs are old, their sidewalks might be old. So there are a lot of, I mean, they typically have the original light fixtures in their basements and in their emergency stairs, and they're very energy inefficient. And nowadays there are so many great options that will provide a lot of savings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to kind of add on to your piece, a piece that we're finding in our space, right, is as new owners and property owners are taking over new buildings, one of the aspects of our space, especially on cash flow, is the arrears. So what kind of debt and cash flow issues does that property specifically have? And how are those people, companies that are taking those ownerships on handling it? So for us, it's something that we're doing now a lot, especially in the commercial space, when people are coming and saying, Miguel, listen, we took, XYZ building, but we have $75,000 in arrears. Is there anything you can help us with on the collection side? So it kind of leads to, like you said, the cash flow issues and planning appropriately, especially for a lot of the older buildings in Manhattan. All right, great. So the other aspect.
And I would think that now with all the expenses increasing every year, that your side of it, collections, is going to be more and more important, because how else are they going to be? How are property managers going to be able, or property owners going to be able to actually afford paying for all of those increased costs?
Yeah, and I think both of us are advocates for a side of this business that most people aren't, right? I think a lot of people are always tenant friendly, and as they should be under the pandemic, I understand. But like you and me both know, we deal with the other side of this book, right? We deal with the property owners, the property management companies. They're human beings too. They're having cash flow issues as well, and they're not really seeing the support. So one of the huge parts of this conversation between the two of us is bringing a little bit of awareness. That there's another side to the coin, especially again in the tri-state area that you and me speak to.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So the next one specifically for you here, I know people are talking about regulations, increasing regulations for building owners. So how are you kind of seeing that space?
Okay. So there are two sides to the increase in regulations. So first of all, when it comes to cost, there's going to be huge increases in cost because of regulation. But it's all good because it's for our safety. It's for safety of New Yorkers. So facade inspections have become more costly. There are now gas pipe inspections. That was rolled out last year. Every 3 or 4 years, buildings are going to have to inspect their gas pipes, which is great. We don't want to see any more explosions, but it's still an added cost. There are all the new energy regulations that are going to be very, very costly, and a lot of buildings are going to be fined, uh, huge fines for not complying with reducing their carbon output. And then we have the side of your side of the collections that rent stabilized buildings are not allowed to increase their rents at the same rate as the increase in costs are increasing.
Yeah, and to your point about our space, right, with regulations, I think a weird space right now is how are we effectively operating in the debt collection space and being empathetic, following the ethical and moral issue, right? We need to approach business in the right way, handling tenants on the commercial and residential side appropriately in the right fashion. But at the end of the day, it goes back to cash flow. It goes back to property owners. They still have to pay their loans. They still have to pay the banks. They still have to pay their mortgages. So the regulation side of things, again, whether it's your space or my space, making sure we approach it the right way. Is there anything for building owners you think that's most important right now as we enter 2021? Is there one thing you think they should focus on specifically?
Energy.
Okay.
So the energy codes that are going to start fine buildings for not um, upgrading their buildings to reduce their carbon output. They're going to start getting fined in 2024. And then those fines are fines until 2030. In 2030, it's going to increase even. It's going to be 80% of New York buildings are going to be fined as it stands now if they do nothing in 2030.
Wow.
80% of buildings. And we're seeing fines of like 150, 180, 250. I mean, it's 1,000 per year.
Wow.
Very big numbers. So they have to do something. And the thing about energy savings is that if we start saving them now, why wait until 2030? If we start saving the money now, then you're going to save for the next 9 years before you are actually being fined. So it's something that is we always start with, and it's something that's highly recommended for all buildings.
Yeah, see, that's a great point. So for everyone listening, 2021, let's think energy. All right, I like that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm parallel to your space, and I wasn't even aware of that. So I'm happy you brought that up. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. And okay, so next point for you and for me, how has tech advances on your side of the business been, a big issue, a big part of what you guys are doing?
So for obvious reasons, Zoom has been, or Google Meet, or Teams, whatever you want to call it, the whole movement from meeting in person to meeting like this online has really opened up how we communicate with our boards and our clients and prospect clients. And it's been a game changer. Think about it. We used to meet with boards 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, at 7 o'clock, because they have to commute from Manhattan to Queens or Brooklyn or something. And then we had to go there. So we could only meet with 4 boards per week. Now we can meet with them for 20 minutes on a Monday at 1 o'clock and Tuesday at 3 o'clock. So it's really opened up how we communicate with our clients, and it's been a game changer. And then there's all the payments. So there are payment processing, and on your side, accounts payable or accounts receivable. There are a lot of fintech companies that are now collecting and paying on the behalf of buildings. And I think that has been a game changer.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. So as far as Zoom goes and Teams and Google Meet, I agree, Tina, like you and me, right? We actually still haven't met physically in person because it's 2021 and this is what we do. But with the tech side of things, you're right. So one of the things we're doing as a company, which is great, is we opened up an API. So linking up our system to the property managers, QuickBooks and Yardies and rent managers, because especially when it comes to these buildings, the transfer of information is so old and outdated, and it's manual, and it's filling in Excels, and it takes a long time. So for us, being able to transfer information with a click, and especially in debt collections where the stigma is always the bad guy, right? So making sure we're transparent, making sure we're collaborative, and they could just log in and understand, all right, Tina could be like, listen, Miguel, I don't really know what's going on with my business. I don't understand what's going on. You log into the portal and there's pure clarity. So that's a big piece of what we're doing as well. Okay, so that's good to see.
Yeah.
So, and you have, by the way, just a comment, your background of your apartment is way better than the jail cell that I'm working in right now.
And I like your oxygen sign. It's a little blurry.
It's
You
tremendous.
put on the blur too. I put on the blur too. It's a nice little touch.
100%. All right,
Thank
so
you so much.
yeah, absolutely. So Tina, before we sign off, is there one other point that you want to make sure people focus on as we kind of go into 2021, or something for people to reach out to the Folsom Group and understand more?
Yeah, so we would love to hear from any board member or rental property owner who is ready to make a commitment to make a positive change for his or her building.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, perfect. And from my side of things, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Tina, you're incredible. Thank you so much for the time. And for us, if you are in a situation as a small business owner, as a healthcare provider, or of course, residential or commercial property management firm, and you're looking for a resource on the account receivables, on your cash flow management, or on debt collections, please feel free to reach out to me and Oxygen XL. So thank you so much, Tina. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.